Hello and welcome to the American Recut. My name is Brendan.
And my name is Super Nick.
What a twist! And we are going to discuss the M. Night Shyamalan 2019 movie, Glass. In this film, security guard David Dunn uses his supernatural abilities to track down Kevin Wendell Crumb, a disturbed man who has 24 personalities.
Right, so this time what I want to do is try and focus on a couple of core elements of movies. I've decided to break this down to four helpful categories for us, just so we can not ramble and rant for an hour and a half like we have before. And this is going to be broken down into elements of story, which is just the events of the plot, pretty straightforward. The characters of the movie, that is, the characters, their actors, and their portrayals. The effects that are used, things like visual effects, audio effects, and special effects. And the themes of the movie, things where you know what the director was trying to bring out, but doesn't necessarily equal the story. It's a little bit more of a freeform category. And finally, the freeform category, which is anything that we can't think of that fits within those four themes. I feel like starting with story. What do you feel?
I would also like to start with story.
All right, now before we get into the story, let's give our quick no spoiler opinion of the movie real fast. Let's start with you.
Well, let's see. Would I see it in theater? No. Would I see it on Netflix? Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, M. Night Shyamalan's movies are a hit and miss, and this was a partial hit, not a total miss.
I would also agree, but I would say that there are 3/4 of a movie I really like, and then an ending that kind of ruins the rest of the movie for me and doesn't really work with what was being established in the movie. I think that this is a movie where it's good enough if you can get over a bad ending, but if you're like me and don't like an ending that kind of hurts the rest of the movie, I'd recommend waiting a little bit and seeing it on rental or on a streaming service. It's not worth the time investment in a theater, if you ask me.
So, and, back to the story.
Story time.
Story time. Now, I, for one, so I have seen Unbreakable, but I did not see Split. So I feel like I was denied a origin story concerning.
Denied by yourself. Don't blame the movie for you not having seen something.
I mean, the Horde's character, I feel like I'm missing a huge part of his backstory because, much to my surprise, Casey, the original protagonist from Split, seems to have a fond bond with her former captor, and that surprised me.
I would actually disagree. I don't think we're missing much of his backstory because, from what I do know about Split, it's very similar to what we see in the opening minutes of Glass, which is he kidnaps people, he brings them in, and he tries to punish them if they're not as demented and tormented as the person that's at the center of the Horde is.
Well, I mean, and so here's what also confused me. When I saw him walking past Bruce Willis's character, I thought I would think, shouldn't he already be locked up or something? How is he still roaming free?
Because nobody caught him.
And that surprises me. I thought didn't the protagonist triumph over the Horde?
You haven't seen the previous movie. That's not something you can make a fair judgment about.
I do feel like, overall, me personally, I would recommend watching Unbreakable and Split just so you could get the full scope of the character's backstory.
I agree. I think that is almost required watching to really appreciate most of this film is knowing some of the background and having an attachment to these characters and being interested in where they're going.
Right. Because you get to know, in watching those films, you do get to better acquaint with the character quips and quirks. When the Horde mentioned the light, I had no idea what he was talking about.
I don't think it was that easy to miss because, especially with the light thing, it was pretty clear they were talking about who was kind of holding the ball for being on the surface to talk for them.
Oh, okay.
Which is why the light passes between them. It's whoever is speaking right now.
Okay, so whoever's behind the wheel. Okay. So, and in that case, let's go deeper into the story of Glass itself.
Yeah, let's talk about Glass. Now, Glass is odd because with that synopsis that we gave earlier, that covers maybe the first 15 minutes of the movie. and then the next hour and a half is them in a mental asylum, kind of doing a big deconstruction of superheroes and superpowers.
Right.
I like this part a lot. The part I didn't like, however, was everything after that.
Oh, tell me about it, because I mean, now can we get into spoilers now? Do you think?
Oh, of course we can.
Okay, so the twist that M. Night Shyamalan partially built up to is...
I don't think he built up to it.
He built up something.
I think it comes out of nowhere.
Once I think there's like two different spoilers, or
Right,
two different twists.
So what we're talking about with this is, as the story progresses through the psych ward, Glass manages to break out both the Beast and the Overseer, and tells them both that he's going to go over to this new building being built, the Nakatama Tower. Good reference. And he's going to have them have a big fight, do it in front of the cameras, and convince the world that superheroes are real.
Right.
And this is his plan. It doesn't quite work like that. They have the fight at the mental asylum instead. It's two mentally ill people fighting each other on the lawn. And then we found out the other twist, which is that apparently the psychiatrist lady and a bunch of local cops are part of some kind of Clover type.
Some kind of Illuminati organization, and their calling card is some kind of tattoo of a clover that's located on their wrists.
And they want to kill the superheroes because,
we can't have people that are overly powerful.
Because we can't have people that are OP.
We can't have OP characters.
So this organization, it's not really foreshadowed in any other Shyamalan film. It's not a callback to any other film. It doesn't come from anywhere, even in the story. They just kind of show up.
Right, they don't even have a name. I don't think it's just totally random.
And I've got issues with this organization. Mostly the fact that, apparently they're hyper efficient enough that they can track down these heroes very quickly and get them into a private location, but they can't rent out the whole building because there's still a bunch of other patients there that have to be shepherded away.
So weird. Or like the restaurant where they have their insidious meeting.
They also hold their meetings in restaurants and pubs.
How did a line cook or a patron not walk in there, see all these people
Apparently they just keep them on the payroll because they have enough money to build multiple businesses as fronts, but they can't afford a warehouse or a boardroom.
Heaven forbid. Yeah, God. Even a small office space would have been a little more sufficient, or...
and this may be after thinking about it, but even at the time in the theater, it was pretty funny to me because it just comes across as not insidious, but kind of funny at how almost incompetent they are as a secret organization.
Right. It's like a low-budget Amanda Waller from DC Comics.
Very much so. Yeah, I would point at Waller. That's a good point. But the big twist is the superheroes all get murdered. Yeah. They get murdered by the Clover guys. Like, Bruce Willis gets drowned in a puddle.
Yeah, there is no real winners.
The guy who's the Beast just kind of gets shot and bleeds out. Like, it's very muted, tame deaths, which I get what he was going for, but it didn't work with all this build-up they did over the last hour and a half, getting us attached to these characters and caring about them, and then just killing them off mercifully for a twist.
Oh, man. No, and that is M. Night Shyamalan style right there.
Fuck it up at the ending?
Yeah, god damn. There is another twist as well. After this twist,
Are you talking about when they upload the video?
Yes, and they do kind of telegraph it.
That's not a twist. That's such a traditional ending to a dark twist. Is just, we got the news out. Now people know heroes exist, which is kind of a victory for Glass's character, sort of. I want to get into that with themes though.
Going back to what Glass said before he died, he said this is a origin story. Now, do you think M. Night Shyamalan is hopeful for a sequel for this?
No.
Oh, good.
He was doing that as a purposeful twist on it because he's thinking, oh yeah, this is the start of my cinematic universe, and he killed off his cinematic universe just to make sure it didn't happen.
But after the videos got uploaded, don't you think that new heroes could be born? I don't know.
I didn't stick around after the credits. I wouldn't know.
knowing M. Night Shyamalan...
I really doubt he's going to come back to this, though. This felt like more of an ending for Glass and Split than it did a new beginning or any origin of any kind.
Now that I think about it, this is the closest to a sequel M. Night Shyamalan has ever done. Oh, excuse me.
Oof, your voice. Get you some water. But yeah, while he's drinking, I'm going to take the time to sneak in and kind of snipe his point. This is the closest that Shyamalan has really come to a proper sequel, and this is the first time he's really tried to make a trilogy of sorts for films. And this time it didn't really... It kind of worked for most of it, until it didn't.
I was about to say, someone should tell M. Night Shyamalan how trilogies work, because, I mean...
He's made enough movies he knows. At this point, I'm not going to give him the benefit that we used to give him, which is that he's inexperienced and had too much success with his first movie, and poor Shyamalan. He's experienced enough. He knows what he does wrong. He knows his style, and he steers into it. All right. Well, anyways, let's move on real quick. Unless you got anything else to say about the story that you want to note.
That's all my qualms with the story I have. Let's move on to the characters now.
All right, characters. We have got Bruce Willis. He's a block of wood. That's all that really needs to be said. It still needs to be said, but let's say some more. I don't like his character. I don't like Bruce Willis in this movie. I like his character okay.
I enjoy the Overseer personally. I liked him in Unbreakable,
but in this one, it didn't feel like he had anything to do.
Well, I mean,
he kind of just sits in rooms.
He does sit in rooms getting drenched with water, i.e. his weakness. I don't know. So, I mean, McAvoy's character, Horde, definitely hogged more of the limelight because he is such an interesting character.
Because he gave a shit and actually tried.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But Bruce Willis, if you compare Bruce Willis with McAvoy, there's no contest. But Bruce Willis is kind of just a chunk of wood over the whole movie, while McAvoy is actually acting at 24 different characters. Well, maybe 10 different characters.
Now, I don't think this is Bruce Willis's fault because...
Yes, it is.
Well, this is another aspect of...
Bruce Willis has a habit of acting like this.
This is also M. Night Shyamalan's terrible habit as well. He has a tendency to make a lot of characters pretty damn stoic.
I disagree. I think that with Overseer, he has reasons to be a little bit more dramatic and have some responses here and there. He has reason to get angry to get into being a superhero. Bruce Willis doesn't show it. This is totally on Bruce. He tries a little bit here and there, but not much.
I don't know. I mean, because let's look at some of the other characters then. So,
the Horde, I love this character. He is portrayed brilliantly. He's got an interesting story to him, and he has almost a full arc over the course of this movie alone.
He does. So we all can agree. McAvoy's character is amazing. The Horde is awesome.
Fantastic.
But let's go to some of the other characters. Let's look at Glass.
Samuel Jackson.
Now, that was a block of wood because he was...
No, I loved Samuel Jackson's portrayal in this movie. He's fantastic as Mr. Glass.
He does a good job as playing the evil mastermind,
okay, hold on. Was that a pun? Were you talking about him being a chunk of wood when he's...
I kind of was.
Oh, my God. Yeah, see, he spends a lot of the movie sedated... But then, of course, it turns out he's a super genius and managed to fool them all with a switcheroo of the medicine.
Which I call bullshit on that. Sleight of hand with that many cameras and no one picked up on that. Come on.
And at the very least, I do wish we got to see a few things like how did he do the sleight of hand? How did he break out of his room that was locked?
Would be sleight of hand if we saw it now,
because
would it?
We're told over and over, oh, he's a genius. He's a super genius. He's the bestest. But the things that he does are things that, while interesting, are things that happen off-screen. We don't know how he does the things he does.
Right, how did he switch that concave in that laser with...
Well, he just took it out.
He just took it out.
That part's fine. He figured out how the laser worked, found the critical component, and took it out in the best way he could. What I'm more curious about is how he got out of his room a few times, because they really don't explain that part. Or how he managed to get off his drugs and switch them out for the other drugs. They don't explain that.
They don't explain that.
Which is fine, though. It's okay. That's a nitpick, to be sure. And I think that for Samuel Jackson himself and his portrayal of this character, I really like the way that works, especially when we're in the big fight in the parking lot. Because he pulls off being very mentally unhinged and kind of deranged while simultaneously being a genius really well.
I think that's just Samuel L. Jackson, period.
I want to note too the makeup effect of him having like these like kind of rotted through gross teeth while he's.
That's a good point.
While he's talking in the parking lot, it gives off the effect of him being completely unhinged off his rocker while having a point so well. I love the way they handled this character.
They did do his makeup incredibly well. The bloodshot eyes,
he's got frazzled hair, he's got bloodshot eyes, he's got the kind of rotted through teeth, right. He's crippled, he's in a wheelchair.
It definitely portrays his his decline very well. And now let's going back to other blocks of wood. I feel like are in this movie. Dr. Staple.
I think she kind of has a very muted performance, but I think that one is more character than actor.
I disagree. This is M. Night Shyamalan's usual spiel. He'll have so many characters maintain one facial expression.
She does absolutely come across as having kind of a monotone as far as things go, except for during the twist at the end when she's got like, this real shaky voice and she's getting all intense about things.
That's the only range of emotion she ever really reveals. I mean, hell, even as she's drowning Bruce Willis's character...
Well, she's not doing it. The guard's drowning him.
Or even as he's drowning, she still maintains that stoic expression.
I think that's supposed to be her character, though, is her professionalism and the way that she maintains this illusion of being an unbiased psychologist. She does have the moment, like at the end on the cameras, where she's screaming after she's fooled by glass, which felt weird. That felt really weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
I think her character was a victim of the twist with the club.
The club? Oh. Yeah, that's
Clover Club, sorry.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's also expand this block of wood concept to other characters. Glass's mother and
what
Casey.
Other characters?
Well, I think...
I think we had 3 commas in the script.
3 commas in the script.
Yeah, so in this movie there are also a couple characters. We have Bruce's son, who's actually brought back from the original movie.
I was happy about that.
That was cool. That was cool to see him. He didn't do much in this movie, but it was cool to see him.
Right.
You have
Glass's mother.
The girl from Split, of course, which, again, she doesn't do much in this movie. They kind of tease at some like really cheesy shit with her, you know, like, she might be his sister and has superpowers as well, but that'd be a little bit too cheesy for me.
That would be too cheesy.
And we have the mother of Glass.
Also a muted performance.
But funnily enough, the actress is younger than Samuel Jackson. She's just in like old lady makeup. But she at least has something of a performance, but she kind of comes across as clueless over the course of the movie, and I feel like it's a disservice to those actors, but the characters weren't important at all.
I kind of disagree.
They were kind of dead weight.
I thought they were like anchors for each of the heroes, air quote.
They existed as anchors, but you could have had them off screen and they'd serve the same purpose. They didn't do much in this movie, though. They didn't have much of an impact. I didn't like them as characters. They had very little impact.
But will you at least acknowledge they also gave somewhat muted performances as well, or?
I think they gave decent performances for what the role was. I'm not going to say they were bad.
Okay.
I will say that they were decent, but their characters were so underwritten and had so little to do, it barely mattered.
Okay.
Okay, so talking briefly about some of the effects that were used in this movie, some of the camera angles that are used are excellent. I love the way that sometimes the camera would sweep over a place, sometimes it'd be on a dolly, sometimes you have this really intense zoom out from characters to show where they're at. And this is the usual Shyamalan style, where it feels like kind of a hodgepodge of directors that all had different techniques. I like it.
I like it as well. M. Night Shyamalan, this is one of his redeeming qualities. He does build a good suspense. He, when Glass is introduced to the beasts, you know, we're given dim lighting, a metamorphosis and a reflection behind Glass.
We have lots of room in the room to have him crawl on walls. We get to see him stomp around as the Beast and be upset. It's great as far as showing the characters the back and forth that transitions to a new shot.
No overwhelming music, just, that ominous undertone, dun, 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 that kind of stuff. What I mean?
The audio is also very well done, too. I'm kind of the opinion that if you don't notice a sound cue, it did its job well.
Right.
And there's no places where it sticks out as either good or bad, which means it's probably good.
Right.
I want to talk about the Pink Room.
The Pink Room? Oh, yeah, okay.
So when they have the group interview between all three of them, they're in a big pink room. And the pink is distracting as all hell. That is one thing I did not like, was that room. It's distractingly bright. And in contrast to every other shot where it's these very muted whites or this kind of steel coloring, this bright pink room that they're in to give these interviews stands out. It may have been intentional. It may not have.
I think it was. I have a theory that it's supposed to kind of illustrate normalcy, sterility, some kind of attempt to put these out-of-place characters in a place of normalcy.
Where they are the ones that are out of place instead of the room?
Or, to kind of emphasize their uniqueness,
I suppose.
But what I wanted to get into real quickly, the special effects behind McAvoy's, or rather the Horde's, characters. Because,
the body transformations?
Yeah, the body transformations. Each personality, his whole physiology changes based on the physiology. So the Beast, huge, muscular, bulging.
While you're talking about that too, let's talk about very briefly the wardrobe they give him and how flexible that is for every single character he's playing.
Man.
It becomes a priest's robes when it needs to be one. It becomes a child's clothes when they need to be child's clothes.
It becomes women's clothes when he becomes Patricia.
It gets torn the hell off when he's the Beast.
Yes. No. Going back to characters briefly.
Great wardrobe.
Yeah.
And I love the rain slick as well for the Overseer or the Tiptoe Man. I love the rain slick that he has on because it's such good visual storytelling. That's why he wears it, both as a cover for his weakness and because he's in a storm of bad stuff. I don't know where I was going with that.
That's no, I see what you're getting at though.
Sorry, but you were talking about the Horde and the Beast and probably the physical transformations that he goes through.
Right. So the Beast, when Casey, what was the protagonist's name from Split? Casey?
We'll go with it.
We'll go with it. Casey, when she tries to calm the Beast by calling him Kevin Windlecrumb.
Kevin Windlecrumb!
Kevin Windlecrumb, you do see all these muscles and veins subside rather very quickly. That was impressive, and it looked almost, no over-the-top CGI. It looked like it was actually happening.
Yep. And
no smoke and mirrors.
On that note, I do want to transition over to themes because I want to talk about over the top as a theme as well.
Okay.
You have anything else you want to point out for a particularly good effect that stuck with you?
No, that'll do it.
All right. So yeah, as far as over the top goes for themes, one of the major themes of this movie, I think, is debunking the myth that superheroes have to be way over the top with what they can do. Because a lot of the feats that are accomplished in this movie are, just as the psychiatrist mentions, things that can be explained away rationally. Like when he flips the car, that could be adrenaline. When Bruce is leaving dents in the van, that could be explained as dead nerves.
Right.
So on.
Or bending the iron
They're
bar.
incredible.
Right.
Yeah. These things are incredible, but can be kind of explained, which is an interesting angle to take with a superhero movie or a franchise idea if you wanted to go that way.
It was a kind of a fun motif because it kind of leaves you in suspense. Like, are they really unique as they advertise themselves to be, or are they really just normal and just have really such amazing luck?
Right, and I think that's one theme. And the other theme I want to talk about too is comic books as a theme, because this movie spends a lot of time talking about comic books as the perfect medium, a storytelling medium that dates back to Roman times with the old gods and Hercules.
And that was some touched up in Unbreakable, because Samuel L. Jackson's character in Unbreakable owned a comic book shop, if memory serves me right.
Yeah.
he glorifies comic books.
That's actually a major kind of motif of his character, is proving to himself that the comic books are right.
Right.
And that he can create superheroes. Now, I'm interested in particularly what it means that he is the one that ultimately succeeds against the Clover Club. And manages to leak this video out that superheroes, or at least super people, exist.
Right.
And does that mean that Shyamalan wants us to think that, in particular, that comic books have won out over practical storytelling?
That's also kind of a recurring theme with Shyamalan movies. Fate. The whole notion of fate or destiny. You know, I mean, like
and religion.
How those two notions trump somehow logic and reason.
I feel like to an extent that shows up here, but I feel like it's because Mr. Glass is supposed to be a very logical character in general. I don't know if it triumphs over logic per se, but it might triumph over pessimism.
Well, I respectfully disagree there, because through Glass, M. Night Shyamalan promotes the notion that you can be unique if you believe in yourself.
I don't think he does.
I
believe that he promotes the idea that super people exist and that they're chosen by fate, and that we need to accept that they exist and admire them to some extent.
But you have to unlock their potential or find them somehow.
With a train.
With a train. Preferably with a train or a catastrophe.
No, just a train. Throw that shit through a building.
Oh,
anyone that makes it through, superhero.
I mean, that's true. That train did kind of create those two.
If you believe Samuel Jackson. But the movie also believes in him as well, because we have the secretary. God, I keep calling her secretary. She's a psychologist. But we have the psychologist keep on going from character to character in the end, saying, "Did I fool you? Did I make you think you weren't a superhero? Because superheroes are totally real. You were right. Superheroes are real. You should see the look on your face as you're drowning right now."
Oh.
But yeah, the movie sides with Glass's character, who fetishizes comic books and the idea of the Superman.
Right, and
so, is he right?
Through Glass and Shyamalan, yes. Apparently, I don't think so. Well, God, I don't know. Again, I like the notion of destiny and fate.
I actually think it's a really weak theme to go with.
It
Especially
is.
if you're having a criticism of the Marvel Disney-style superhero.
M. Night Shyamalan just lays it on too thick. He always lays the notion of...
I think this theme shows up a little bit in the movie, but it gets laid on super thick with the ending that I didn't like.
It does, yeah.
And I think that if you're going to have a criticism of Disney, Marvel, DC, and the way they handle their overblown superheroes, the monologues, the blah, 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 the tropes, you're going to have to go in a different direction than they would go in, which is things like killing people or having to make a very hard decision, and not like the Snyder Superman, but still having to make a tough decision that's going to be a lose-lose, having the hero lose. These are ways that you can really criticize Marvel, I think, but having just murdering all your superheroes because you want to break your toys, I don't know if that's an effective message.
No, not really, no. Any other themes that we want to touch up on?
I think I've petered out.
Yeah, I kind of petered out too, because, I mean, that was kind of a centralized theme right there.
All right, well, so overall then, let's just go through each of our categories we made and say, does it work, does it not? And if you want to add something else, great. If you don't, fine.
I think this will be pretty cut and dry. Story, does it work? No.
Most of it works, the ending doesn't.
No. 3/4 of the movie work, not the ending.
And I think that I'm of the type where the ending bothers me to the point that it hurts the rest of the movie. But if you can get over the ending, it's probably not going to be a deal breaker.
And that's something Shyamalan always does in his movies, be it Signs,
at this point,
The Happening.
At this point, it's just his style. You go into a Shyamalan movie, you expect him to screw up the ending.
Yep.
Characters.
Tremendous, especially on the part of the Horde.
Hit or miss. I think that the Horde and Mr. Glass work well, but characters like the Overseer and all three of the supporting cast don't work well because of the actors' performances in part and because they're just underwritten.
And then effects.
Excellent.
Yep.
The
It works.
effects, as usual in a Shyamalan movie, are all good. The camera angles are excellent. The lighting is perfect. The sets are done in a way that's both cost-effective and looks good for the film while conveying through visual storytelling what you need to know.
The theme.
I think the themes in this movie are a little bit too muddled in this case and don't fully work.
He had a direction, but yeah.
Especially with the twist ending of the story. The themes of this movie don't quite work the way you want them to. I'm on the iffy page this one.
I am too. Like, I see where he's going, and I could get behind it if his delivery was played off differently.
All right. Final impression then. Do you recommend this movie, yes or no?
Again, if it's on Netflix for free, I'd watch it, but...
It's not free on Netflix.
Oh yeah, Netflix is never free. If it's on Netflix, I'll watch it. But if I'm going to watch it in theaters, no.
Yeah, I'd say wait on it. Catch it when it comes out on DVD or on streaming.
And again, I just personally recommend watch Unbreakable and Split first.
Yeah, but watch the other two first because this is much more satisfying as a conclusion to those stories than as a standalone movie.
And it's a trilogy.
It is a trilogy.
What a twist.
What a twist. All right, well, thank you for joining us.
I'm Brendan.
And I'm still Nick.
What a twist.
What a twist.